It wasn't pretending. I knew what I had done was wrong, but I didn't fully understand it.
So you don't feel like the criticism has been fair?
That's the thing. I do.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Behavioral Arts, and I honestly believe that this week's video is going to be one of my best analyses. So we are talking about Logan Paul, famous YouTuber, social media influencer. He has a giant YouTube following, over 23 million subscribers, and honestly, such a fascinating guy, because if you've followed him from the beginning, he's seen such an important evolution. For those of you who aren't aware of the whole controversy, in late 2017, Logan Paul posted a video on his channel. Back then his channel was all about vlogging and his crazy lifestyle. And in this video, he showed a person in Japan who had actually committed suicide. And it was in the background, and he was being silly about it, not taking it seriously, and the backlash was disastrous. So eventually, he posted an apology video, apologizing for what he did. And back then in 2018, he also did an interview on the news where he talked about it. And this is what we're looking at today. But recently, less than a month ago, he was on an interview where the subject was brought up again, and we're seeing a lot of emotions that are similar from 4 years ago, but a whole lot of things that are new. So I don't want to give too much away because I always want you guys to take a look and form an unbiased opinion. So let's do that. Try to look at emotional depth. Try to look at how sincere you believe he's being. And if you are seeing any real emotions, try to see what you think those emotions are towards. I don't want to give too much away, but just look for those details. Take a look.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment, and I don't expect to be forgiven. I'm simply here to apologize. There's a lot of things I should have done differently, but I didn't. And for that, from the bottom of my heart, I am sorry. I want to apologize to the internet. I want to apologize to anyone who's seen the video. I want to apologize to anyone who has been affected or touched by mental illness or depression or suicide. But most importantly, I want to apologize to the victim and his family. For my fans who are defending my actions, please don't. They do not deserve to be defended. The goal with my content is always to entertain. I don't expect to be forgiven. I'm just here to apologize. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm disappointed in myself. And I promise to be better. I will be better.
It's been tough because ironically, I'm being told to commit suicide myself, which
Really?
millions of people literally telling me they hate me to go die in a fire.
So you don't feel like the criticism has been fair?
That's the thing. I do. Now, I will say I am much more aware of the impact that my actions have on myself and others.
Google Preferred dropped you from their service.
Yeah.
Do you think that was fair of them to do?
I understand that they needed to take a stance, and while I don't necessarily maybe agree with it, I do respect it. This was a horrible lapse of judgment. And I can, will, and am going to learn from it and be a better person.
Okay, so hold that thought. Whatever it is, you're gonna have a chance to let me know. But right now I wanna show you the more recent interview, which was literally a week and a half ago. And this was on a YouTube channel called MMA Fighting on SBN. And the interviewer is great. I really like the way he conducted this whole interview. But look at some clips from now, 4 years later from that original footage.
A lot of people found out who you were outside of the YouTube world when that incident happened with the vlog in Japan. And your career could have gone like two separate ways, right? Like you could have bounced back, which you did, or it could have essentially ended.
I've never said this before, and I don't know if this is a bit taboo, but I often look back at that time of my life and the person that I was unfortunately becoming. And now at 26, I can safely say that Japan was the biggest blessing in my life. I needed a reset. I needed life to check me, and it did. Some of my fans find this hard to hear, but I cannot watch content pre 2018 for
Really?
me. I think it's a childish version of myself. I actually can't believe it's the same person.
Did someone help you
everything-
understand it? Did something help you understand it?
Yeah, but it's, character shifts are gradual and they don't happen overnight. That's why you see these creators or anyone who makes a colossal mistake, myself included, with a half-ass apology.
Right.
And then you come back with a little bit better of an apology. Now you got 2 apology videos out there, and because you kind of understand, but you don't really, and you're still the same person who made the mistake, but it was wrong, but not really why.
Okay, so now it's time for your first impression comments. So pause the video or go back and watch the clips again if you have to. There's a lot of really, really great stuff in the facial expressions, the body language, what he's saying, where his energy is directed. And head down to the comments and let me know right now what you think of all this. You can compare the 2 original interviews from 4 years ago. You can compare those to his demeanor now. What's the same, what's different, whatever you saw, I want it all. Let me know in the comments, then come back and we're gonna keep going.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment, and I don't expect to be forgiven. I'm simply here to apologize.
Okay, so right at the top, there's something really fascinating, especially when we compare it to the other 2 clips, because he starts off and his hand's on the camera and his eyes are down and to his right. So like this. And he hits the camera and he jumps right into his speech. There isn't a moment of like catching his breath, getting emotional, thinking about it. First of all, I think he's got some notes on his desk. It really seems like just as he starts, he moves up with his energy and his eyes take an extra second to sort of get in those last little memory aids, and then he begins. This seems very rehearsed. Those words seem like whether he wrote them down or somebody else wrote them down for him, they're very rehearsed, and he just looks at the camera and starts immediately reciting the script that he has. Right at the end when he says, "I'm simply here to apologize," we see a very clear lip compression, which is withheld opinion. It's not enough to say it's for sure deception or high likelihood of deception, because we're not seeing too much else to say like, well, he doesn't want to apologize. But that lip compression, typically, even alone, is we're holding something back. Does it mean he thinks it's going to be hard to apologize? It's hard for his ego? Does he think he shouldn't be apologizing for this? Unclear, but he's holding something back.
There's a lot of things I should have done differently, but I didn't. And for that, from the bottom of my heart, I am sorry. I want to apologize to the internet. I want to apologize to anyone who's seen the video. I want to apologize to anyone who has been affected or touched by mental illness or depression or suicide. But most importantly, I want to apologize to the victim and his family.
Okay, once again here, we're continuing with a very flat tone. There isn't really any him stopping, feeling the emotion of what he's saying. He's just going through his script. I want you to notice his blink rate. Literally the moment he starts apologizing with, "I want to apologize to the internet," his blink rate starts going nuts. So in the beginning of this, he's got a pretty steady blink rate, but the moment he starts to apologize, it starts going haywire. Right at the end, when he's apologizing to the victim and the victim's family, we see a lip lick and his breathing gets heavier to where we hear it and we see his shoulders rise. Not only is it a heavy breath, the breath is higher up. When we're relaxed and comfortable, we breathe into our stomach. When we're stressed, we breathe into the lungs, and we can often see the sort of that exactly what we saw there, along with a lip lick. These are 2 very big indicators of stress. Is it the stress of this victim that's bothering him? Is it the stress of having to face his family and apologize to his family? I can't tell you, I'm not psychic, but there's heavy stress around this person and this person's family.
For my fans who are defending my actions, please don't. They do not deserve to be defended. The goal with my content is always to entertain. The intent is never to be heartless, cruel, or malicious. Like I said, I've made a huge mistake. I don't expect to be forgiven. I'm just here to apologize. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm disappointed in myself. And I promise to be better. I will be better.
There is a lot going on there right in the beginning. So he says, "To all my fans who are defending me, don't." And as he does that, we see 2 things. One, a really quick and subtle eyebrow flash as he looks right at the camera, and 2, this yes gesture with his head, almost for emphasis. Now, this is really telling. First, the eyebrow flash. It's subtle, but when we flash our eyebrows as we say something to someone, we're seeking approval and connection. But as he's saying don't defend me, we're also seeing this yes. I think this is him in his head going, I really hope you guys do continue to defend me. Another really fascinating thing is the way he worded that request. Listen to the way he did it. He goes, to all my fans who are defending this, don't. Not, this is beyond defense, I can't defend the horrible thing that I did. To all my fans who are defending this. This is called social proof. We use it in persuasion all the time, in sales, in marketing, and it's really effective. And there's a lot of science that backs it up. And it's basically, if you want someone to behave a certain way, tell them how other people, especially people like them, are behaving. So think of a fundraiser, for example, on TV, where the announcer might say, to everyone who pledged over $1,000 so far, thank you very much. And this just puts the idea in people's mind, oh, other people are doing it, I should do it as well. So it's the same in this case. He's not saying this is beyond defense. He's saying there are a lot of fans out there defending me. So that puts it in our head that, oh wait, there's people defending this, and it gets us to consider the other angle of this, that there might be something here that is defendable. Then to further push my opinion down that route, immediately after he says, don't defend this, he gives a defense. It's almost like he's saying, don't defend this, but if you want to, like all my other fans, here's a really good defense. Because he starts saying, my content is never about being malicious or cruel, so he gets defensive. He says, don't be defensive, then he gets defensive. So I think this is him just going, don't defend this, please, immediately, by telling people that I'm not cruel. At the end there, we're seeing a lot of turtling, which is when our shoulders come up like this and our chin comes down. This is when we're feeling vulnerable, defensive. We see a lip compression once again. He's withholding something. We're not getting a full truth here. And we do see, again, signs of that deeper, more stressed breathing. So what's my overall opinion of this video? Well, throughout we get a very monotonous, generic apology. You could almost take this and apply it to any situation. There's very little about what he's actually apologizing about. If we look at Joe Rogan's apology, which I broke down last week, we see a lot of specific stuff. He talks about his reflection. He talks about detailed things about the word that he used, why he doesn't believe it's okay. There's ups and downs. There's a lot of reflection, and he stumbles because he's thinking about it. Here we're getting this very monotonous, generic, sort of no depth, no real reflection. So do I think that he was at the time a heartless, cruel person who got pleasure out of doing this? Absolutely not. I will tell you exactly what I've been saying for the last 4 years. I've been sent this video a lot, and it's basically that, to me, this is the exact same vibe as a child who did something and he's being told off, and he's sad and he's actually hurt that people are upset with him. He doesn't want people to be upset. He wants to make people happy, but he doesn't quite understand what he did wrong. There is sadness here. You can see he's let himself down. He wants to do better, but he doesn't know what it is he did wrong. He doesn't get it. All right, now we're gonna move on to the follow-up interviews and look at some really, really great moments of body language and how you can use that to know what people around you are thinking. But before we do me a huge favor, guys, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on for more amazing behavior analysis content.
It's been tough because ironically, I'm being told to commit suicide myself, which
Really?
millions of people literally telling me they hate me to go die in a fire.
Okay, so now we're at the interview with Michael Strahan on ABC. And keep in mind, this is a month after that I'm sorry video. And it's almost like we're seeing an entirely different person. His vibe is different. He's more animated as he's talking. He's more engaged. He's feeling those emotions more. I want you to notice right in the beginning, as soon as this starts, his eyes are once again in that exact same location, down and right. And in this case, he definitely doesn't have a script there. The monitor wouldn't be there. It would be beyond the interviewer, behind Michael, if he wanted one. I don't think he has one here, but it's not there. So again, we're getting an indication here that this is where he accesses whatever script he has or whatever he's going to talk about. That's where he goes. Whether it's physically there or he's just sort of accessing this information, his eyes are going down there. Then we see a slow blink like this, and we see there's quite a bit of emotion on his face as he's remembering this event, which is very different than I was impacted by it in that solo video.
So you don't feel like the criticism has been fair?
That's the thing. I do.
You don't. I feel like I need a buzzer here for like cluster of deception, that I just hit it and it goes bam, bam, you've observed a cluster of deception. So always remember, one thing is never enough to tell us that someone is being deceptive. We need to see multiple signs at the same time, and we're definitely seeing that there. So he's being asked if he feels that the criticism has been fair, and he says, I do. I don't think he does. I think he gets it, or he's starting to get it, that he probably shouldn't have posted that, but I think he thinks the criticism is unfair. Here's why. We see lip licking. This is high sign of stress for one of two reasons. Either it's because the mouth is drying up from stress and we're trying to correct that, or grooming. By doing that, we make ourselves look more appealing, more presentable. In either case, it contributes to a cluster of deception. Then we see hesitation as he's trying to formulate an answer. When he can't, he defaults to something else that buys him more time. And there's a lot of terms for this in the industry. Some call it, shorter non-answer statements. Some call it verbal leaks. Some pair it together with hesitancy, but he says, well, that's the thing. So anytime you hear, that's the thing, here's the thing. So here's what I think about that. It's just someone trying to buy time to come up with an answer. And we could see him struggling. As he's saying that, we see an eye flutter. Whenever we do this, remember, it's a hard time processing something. So I think he's just really trying to process, okay, how am I supposed to say this? So when we're having a hard time getting words out or processing words that are coming in, eye flutter, increased blink rate, and then we get the I do. So all that stuff before it leads me to believe that that is not exactly very truthful.
Now, I will say I am much more aware of the impact that my actions have on myself and others.
Two lip licks, almost immediately one after the other. Whenever you see that, that's important to note, with a slow blink and a no gesture, as he's saying, now I definitely get it. Now, a month after that apology video, now I definitely get it. Look, I think he's trying. I think he's trying to come off as he really gets this, but I still think at this point, he didn't really get what was so wrong with that. That's my feeling. Let me know if you guys agree.
Google Preferred dropped you from their service.
Yeah.
Do you think that was fair of them to do?
I understand that they needed to take a stance. And while I don't necessarily maybe agree with it, I do respect it.
It's almost like we're seeing more emotion in this moment than any other point from both videos up until now. And there's a lot of emotion. First, it's actually a mix of sadness and anger. We see the eyebrows, the inner corners go up like this. This is really difficult to fake and only happens in real sadness. As his eyes close, like he's having a hard time looking at this, this is like a really, really slow blink. It's actually eye blocking. I don't want to face this. I don't want to look at it. And the sadness over here, but his jaw is clenched and his lips are a little tight, and that's anger. So he's angry about this. He's sad about this. And I don't even need to tell you that there's a lot of emotion there. You may not have known the specifics of those things, but even someone who's brand new to the channel, and if you are, welcome, you would know just by looking at that he's going through some sort of emotional experience there. Then the camera zooms out and we see that he's got one leg on top of the other, almost like a barrier between him and the interviewer. But this is not something I always jump on. Be careful with that, because sometimes people sit like that out of pure comfort. It's not the worst thing for me, especially alone, but this isn't alone, because the right hand is on top of right where his ankle is, and there's digital flexion. He's clenching. That's something we do when we're stressed, almost as a pacifier, a little bit of a massage there. And the left hand is blocking the pelvic area, which is something we do when we're feeling very defensive. So those hands are in a defensive position, and the right foot is fidgeting a little. It's not a happy or kind of bouncy movement. It's a more fidgety movement. So a lot of stress around that as well.
This was a horrible lapse of judgment. And I can, will, and am going to learn from it and be a better person.
It's amazing to me how he ends both videos with almost the same words. I'm going to be better. I will be better. And also, it's so interesting how everything he said there at the end, I can, will, am going to learn from this. Not I have, I did. And that just corroborates what I'm saying. I really feel like he does feel bad. He didn't want to hurt anyone. He didn't want to offend anyone, because that's never his goal. Even if you go back, he was a silly kid. Like imagine your entire life being watched by 18 million people. That's a lot of pressure. He was just having a good time. He didn't think about it. He didn't want to hurt anyone. He didn't want to offend anyone. And when he realized he did, it hurt, but I don't think he quite understands why. And he's saying, I'm going to, I will learn from this. I haven't yet, but I will.
A lot of people found out who you were outside of the YouTube world when that incident happened with the vlog in Japan, and your career could have gone like two separate ways, right? Like you could have bounced back, which you did, or it could have essentially ended. I wonder.
That is crazy. The second the subject comes up, look at where his eyes go, and it's almost like robotic. They go right back down to that same exact spot, down and to the right. Something in his mind has taken this event and put it right there. I don't know if it's because originally his script was there or what's going on, but the moment it comes up, even in 4 years later, his eyes go right there as he goes, okay, we're gonna talk about this now. So he gets his mind to that conversation. He shifts to that topic. Then we see grooming as he fixes his hair. Grooming is anytime we try to make ourselves look a little more presentable because we're about to present something. He posturally shifts. This is also called anchor point movements, where he moves. Anchor point movement is anytime you move something that's keeping you there. So the legs and where he's sitting, that's what's keeping him there. He completely shifts that, stands up and fixes his posture like this. So a lot of indications of stress here. This is a stressful topic, and also a bit of like, okay, let's go. I got this. I'm ready to talk about this. I've been preparing for this. Let's do this.
I've never said this before, and I don't know if this is a bit taboo, but I often look back at that time of my life and the person that I was unfortunately becoming. And now at 26, I can safely say that Japan was the biggest blessing in my life. I needed a reset. I needed life to check me, and it did.
Doesn't that feel a lot more genuine than almost anything we saw up until this point? There's this real reflection there, and there's just one point where he kind of looks off into the distance. When we're very emotional about something, especially something that's going to impact our future, we tend to have this sort of, I'm looking into the future gaze, which he has here. And I think he's aware that the statement he made, it's a controversial statement. To say that the footage of this person who committed suicide was a positive thing. He knows he had backlash from that. People saying, how dare you be so selfish? It's not about you. But he's owning it. And it's tough. So he's thinking about it. It's slow. And he's like, maybe this is taboo to say. Maybe it's wrong to say, but I'm okay with that because this is my truth. And he's searching for his words. And we don't have that monotonous sort of generic thing. We have actual thought here.
Some of my fans find this hard to hear, but I cannot watch content pre-2018 from me. I think it's a childish version of myself. I actually can't believe it's the same person.
So again, in the beginning, he has that social proof. Some of my fans find this hard to hear. And I think this is a habit for him as a social media influencer, because they often say things like, hey, to all the fans who did this, and thank you so much, and all the fans who are doing that, thanks. So it's a defense mechanism to say because he's talking about here how he can't watch his old stuff, but he's saying, some of my fans find this hard to hear because they still like it. So it's almost like I'm gonna hit my ego here for a sec, but before I do, I just want to kind of raise it a little. Like some of my fans still like it, but I don't. Okay, we're back to normal now. Also, notice how he has a clear timeline in his head, like a visual representation of time. Not everyone does this, but some people, when they talk about the past, will gesture more here, and when they talk about the future, their energy will go more here because they have a visual timeline, which makes sense for someone who does a lot of video work and thinks visually. But when he's talking about pre-2018, we see his eyes go there. He's thinking about it this way. And when he talks about throughout that interview, and I'll leave the link in the description, you can watch the whole thing as he talks about future aspirations, what he's going to do with these videos. He's often looking this way. When he's talking about things that will affect his future, he's looking out here, and that's the past. There is something I love in that clip, and I've talked about it before, and I've rarely found a perfect example of it, and I'm sure some of you caught it, and it's the micro expression of contempt, which is the only universal emotion that is asymmetric, where there isn't symmetry in the face. And I've talked about it before, I've tried to fake it, but I don't need to anymore because it's right there as he's talking about his old content. And this is how I know it's genuine, because this is really hard to do if you don't really feel it. He's talking about his old content, how he didn't like it, he was contemptuous. And we see exactly there that little triangle that pops up and we see the line on one side of the nose. It is one of the best examples I've seen of that. This quick look of contempt as he's talking about his old self. I love it, and that's how I know it's genuine.
I wasn't fully able to comprehend where I f***ed up. Like it took me a while to really understand the damage that I had done, A, to the world, and B, to myself.
I'm honestly so glad he said that, because I've been saying that for the last 4 years. Up until this interview came out, I was saying he feels bad, he feels sorry, but he doesn't understand what went wrong. Again, notice, he talks here. He generally talks here because he's a visionary and he sees like the world is here and the future is here. But when he talks about, again, the past and what was happening back then, his attention shifts to here. But ultimately, he's really owning up to the fact that even back then, he didn't know what the heck he was apologizing for.
Did someone help you understand it? Did something help you understand it?
Yeah, but it's, character shifts are gradual and they don't happen overnight. That's why you see these creators or anyone who makes a colossal mistake, myself included, with a half-ass apology.
Right.
And then you come back with a little bit better of an apology. Now you got 2 apology videos out there, and because you kind of understand, but you don't really, and you're still the same person who made the mistake. Well, you know it was wrong, but not really why.
So there is something really weird in the beginning of that. The guy asks him, was there someone or something that helped you realize how wrong it was, like a shifting point? And it's weird. It's a very weird answer. It's almost a non-answer, because he goes, yeah. And then he just totally changes the subject and talks about character shifts and how hard they are. Is he dodging it's one of two things. Either he's dodging the reason, the shift yet, I don't know why, or he's on this interview and he really wants to talk about character shifts, so he's directing the conversation to what he thinks is more important. Either way, it almost feels like he didn't really register the question or address it. That was really bizarre. But besides that, look at the accountability. He's talking about how those apologies were nonsense because he didn't know what was going on, and he's breaking down the psychology of it. And notice how the tone is totally different. There's ups and downs, and there's more involvement. Last week in the video, I said when we're truthful, there's more fluctuation, and when we are being deceptive or we're giving a speech we don't really believe in that's rehearsed, a lot more monotonous because we don't spend as much time thinking about the tone as we do about the words. So here, he's really explaining it. You feel what he's feeling. Like, you make this apology and it's not good enough, you got to make another one. And this is so genuine. So what do I think at this point? Do I think that he legitimately now gets what was wrong? I'm still not 1,000,000% sure. There's still a bit of dodginess, still a bit of stress around the subject, a couple of lip licks, nothing like 4 years ago to where he was clueless as to what was going on. You almost felt bad for him. Even if he still doesn't agree with the amount of threats and stuff he got, there's a real sense here of, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. That was wrong. I can't watch that. Contempt. And just let's move on. Let's move on. Let's make the world a better place. So good job. Love it. Love the positivity. And yeah. So there it was, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch his evolution and contrast and compare. Let me know in the comments what you thought, and I will see you on the next one.